Isla and her brothers are back for season 2 of Netflix's basketball-themed comedy Running Point. Does this second round hit the shots like the first, or is this just a complete airball? Isla Gordon is no longer the surprise choice to lead the Los Angeles Waves. She's the one everyone is watching. With the franchise finally rebounding after last year's scandal, Isla is determined to prove she's not just keeping the seat warm for her brother Cam. What she doesn't know is that Cam is quietly maneuvering behind the scenes to reclaim his post, turning every misstep into ammunition. Kate Hudson, Drew Tarver, Scott MacArthur, Fabrizio Guido, and Justin Theroux return as the Gordon family. But the rest of the cast, it remains just as stacked with talent like Brenda Song, Ellis, Chet Hanks, Toby Sandman, Greenfield, and then some newer faces to the series like Ray Romano, Marino, and Scott Speedman, along with a couple of cameo guest stars. Now, the mix of comedy, drama, and sports, it remains balanced, surprisingly creating a plot progression that can appeal to people who care nothing about professional basketball. And just like with Ted Lasso, the basketball and Running Point is used to augment the arcs and add some excitement. But the main focus stays on the relationships and the struggles that arise from running a business with a whole bunch of family members. Now, the storyline for this season, it's fairly predictable, especially when it comes to Isla's position as head of the basketball organization and then Cam scheming to take back control. Justin Theroux as Cam, he is the perfect choice to craft this self-absorbed, skeezy, and selfish dirtbag who's only satisfied when he gets what he wants, regardless of what that takes, or does to anybody else. And there's this excellent visual representation of this with his dynamic with a rehab buddy who's played wonderfully by Blake Anderson. The banter back and forth, it's stoner witty, but Anderson is such a lovable, laid-back dude that he's instantly endearing and sympathetic, especially when contrasted against Cam. Now, Kate Hudson has a tough character to create because Isla needs to be strong and confident, which Hudson does amazingly, but Isla also has to be vulnerable, especially when alone in quieter moments. And vulnerable, that isn't bad or even a weakness, but the character is written to hedge on the whiny and complaining side. But thankfully, Hudson, she doesn't fall into that trope. Instead, has her moments of doubt and frustration, sometimes even desperation or hopelessness, even grief. But then she doesn't dwell in that attitude. Instead, comes back even stronger and more resolute, mixing determination with humor to be the leader that she already is. And Hudson has some incredible timing, both in comedy and in her ability to nail the dramatic moments with some poignancy and ferocity. But even with Isla and Cam creating torrents of chaotic fun, the show wouldn't be nearly as engaging or even funny if the remaining 3 brothers weren't involved. Drew Tarver, Scott MacArthur, who has some dysfunctionally humorous cameos in HBO's Rooster, and then Fabrizio Guido, they carry so much of the heart of the storytelling. Whether individually or within the ensemble, their additions work in depth and meaning to a lot of the family arcs. Their situations can sometimes be exaggerated, but they're never so far out there that they're unbelievable or even irrelevant. They have relationship drama, childhood traumas, self-doubt, job struggles, and I love how their individual plot lines, they don't distract from the main story, but instead help to augment it to allow for diverting and converging arcs that keep the storytelling interesting. But with all of the different plots going on, whether they're tiny or large, a lot of the time elements have importance for only an episode. Maybe even only a portion of an ep before just being quickly resolved and then dropped to not be revisited again. One example involves Jackie's Waves dancer girlfriend, Sophia. You got that? Well, she and the other dancers have some grievances, and while the show does address this and then create some laughs around the situation, this particular segment also feels written specifically for product placement and brand awareness. There are some other times that the show does this also, but these instances are done with fake companies. In the dancer example, an actual corporation and brand is featured, adding to the belief that it's all just out of brand placement. And then several other plotlines experience similar time and focus, being forgotten immediately after any sort of resolution is mildly reached. Now sure, this does help to keep the pacing tighter and more efficient with fewer callbacks to previous scenes or interactions, but it also puts the show in danger of coming across as a story of the week proposition rather than this continuous story that's best suited for streaming and binge watching. Now, another series casualty for Season 2 is with an expanding cast and arc, some previously prominent characters have to take more of a back seat now and only get to pop in and out occasionally. Now, this isn't always a negative, especially if their inclusion would feel forced rather than a natural addition, but some of the smaller relational areas that brought about some endearing conversations, they just don't receive the same attention. and that absence, it can be noticeable, depending on how you have connected with the characters. The 10 episodes are easy to chew through, and with each around 30 minutes long, this won't even kill an entire day. And while the series does allow in familial drama and a little melancholy, the core is still centered around dysfunctional comedy as a semi-power struggle forms. And the family members, they're all forced to choose just how they're going to respond. So overall, Season 2 of Netflix's Running Point continues to run towards the championship using quick wit and endearing relational dynamics to craft a quick-moving story that's obvious and predictable, but enjoyable and hilarious at the same time. Kate Hudson continues to command the lead, balancing vulnerability, strength, comedy, and shamelessness. The rest of the ensemble, they complement well, adding tremendous heart and humor while also creating story arcs that allow individuals to shine with their respective talents. While many minor story arcs are resolved too quickly and then tossed aside, and some previous relational interactions are greatly reduced, the season as a whole is riotous and touching, not always hitting those jumpers, but still making the attempts. There's some sex, very brief nudity, a lot of profanity, and then some violence. I give Season 2 of Running Point 4 out of 5 couches. This continues just to be an easy and fun binge with a large mix of character types. Okay, are there any good comedies that you're watching right now? Typically, I'm delving into the dark and murderous shows, but I always appreciate when something can make me laugh. So let me know some suggestions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.